Hi everyone. So today we will be discussing about the difference between temporary table and table variable, and it is one of the frequently asked question in interviews for a SQL Server developer. So let's start with the definition of these two. So a temporary table in SQL Server is a database table that exists temporarily on the database. Suppose we have to apply some transformations on a table, we have to filter the data on a table, and we cannot do it in the main table. So what we can do, we can take the data from the table and put the data in the temporary table, apply the filters, apply the operations to transform the data, and then we can move the data to our final table. So we can use temporary table for this purpose. Whereas a table variable is a special type of local variables that is also used to store data temporarily. So both the temporary table and table variable are used to store the data temporarily in the database. Let's see what is the difference between these two. So we will start from the syntax of these two. In temporary table, a temporary table can be created just like a normal table, like create table, a table name, and we can define the columns here. And we can insert the data in the temporary table like this, insert into table, just like we insert the data for the normal tables, and then we can select the data. For table variable, like we have to declare it like a variable, like declare at the rate table variable name and table, and we have to define the columns here. Then we have to insert the data, and then we can select the data. Let me show you how we can create it in the database. So this is the syntax for the temporary table. Uh, so I am executing these queries. So you can see that I have created a temp table, inserted two records, that is John and Mary, in the table, and then I'm selecting the data from the temp table. You can see in the results that John and Mary has been inserted in the table. And for table variable, I have written the syntax here, like declare table variable name table and the column name, and then I'm inserting two records in it, and then I'm selecting the data from table variable. So two records has been inserted in this. So these are the differences. These are the syntax difference of table variable and temporary table. Now let's go to the DDL operations. Temporary tables. In temporary tables, we can use the DDL statements like create, alter, and drop. For example, like I can, after creating a temporary table, I can alter the table and I can add a column, I can drop the table like this. Okay, and in table variable doesn't support DDL statements. Like once a table variable has been declared, I cannot alter the structure of the table variables, nor I can drop them explicitly. Let's show you here in SSMS. Like for temporary tables, I have used this command like alter table hash table temp add age int. Like I'm adding a column age in the existing temporary table which we have created in the last step. So like it is created, the table is altered. Suppose if I will select the table now, then it will also has the column age here. But we cannot do such operations here in the DDL. Like these operations are not supported here. Like if I try to drop this table variable, it will not drop. So these DDL operations are not supported in table variables. Okay, let's go to the third difference, which is uh, which is transactions. So temporary tables. In temporary tables, they do participate in transactions. And table variables, they doesn't participate in transaction. What it does mean is, suppose we have created a temporary table, and then we have explicitly like we have begin the transaction, and we have inserted certain records in the transaction. And if due to some reason I want to roll back that transaction, I want to roll back the inserted records. So if I do so in temporary tables, the transaction is rolled back. But in case of table variable, if I want to roll back the transaction, then it is not possible. It will, after the rollback transaction statement, it will still show us the records that are inserted in the previous step. Let's see this in SSMS. So for temp table, the table has all I already has this table here. So like dropping this I'm dropping this table as like it has one extra column. I have dropped the table. Yeah. So I'm creating this temporary table again here with the same columns ID and name. Then I have returned I'm starting the transaction like begin tran, and like then I'm inserting the records in this, and then I'm rollbacking it. So like I'm executing this all at once. Okay. And then I'm selecting the data from the table. Then you can see that there is no records in the temporary tables. So the transaction has been rolled back. But in case of table variable, I am like this is where I am creating the table, declaring the table variable, and then inserting the data and the rollback. This syntax is almost similar to that of that what we have done in the temporary table. So like I'm executing this whole thing as this is a one batch. So like you can see the data even after the rollback statement, the data still exists in the table variable. Okay, so it means that it doesn't support transactions. Now let's see the other difference, which is based on the user defined functions. So temporary tables cannot be created inside a user defined functions, whereas a table variable can be created within a user defined function. Let's see it with an example. For temporary table, like I have created a function like temp table in UDF, and I have like created a temporary table inside the function, and I have used one if statement, like if select one by one is equals to 1, then it will return 1, as it will return 0. So I'm trying to create this function. So when I try to create this function, I will get this error like cannot access temporary tables from within a function. This means we cannot create a temporary table within a user defined function. Whereas in case of table variable, like here I'm trying to create a table variable in a user defined function. That the table, everything is similar to that of that what we have created for the temp tables. Like I have used the same condition. I have declared a variable inside user defined functions, and I have used the select statement to check the condition. Like if 1 by 2 is equals to 0, then return 1, else return 0. So I have created this function, and the function is successfully created. And when I try to print or select, you can say that 0 is returned, like as 1 by 2 is not equals to 1, that's why it has returned 0. So we can successfully create a table variable inside a function. Okay, the other difference is in terms of index. So temporary tables. In temporary tables, we can create the index implicitly as well as explicitly. Like while creating a table, we can define the index there while creating the table, or even after a table is created, we can explicitly create an index on the table. Whereas in table variables, we can only create the indexes implicitly. Once a table variable is declared, we cannot create indexes explicitly. For example, let's see it in SSMS. Okay, here's the index. Suppose in case of table, if we are creating a table, like let me drop the table as it is already created. So I'm dropping the table. So if when I'm creating a table, I have for this primary key, clustered index has been created. Okay, and now when the table is created, I am creating a non-clustered index on name column. It is also okay, it is giving me some error. It is also, I can't find table. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, table has been created, and now I'm creating this table Okay, I'm creating non-clustered index on this table. The table name I was using is wrong. The non-clustered index has been created on the table. So implicit and explicitly both the indexes we can create on temp table. Whereas for table variable, we can only create implicit index. Like while I am declaring a table variable, I can create indexes here, like the clustered index or the non-clustered index. We can create it here in the new versions, like we can create it here. It can be declared here, but after it is created, we cannot create an index on table variable. Like we cannot create explicit index like this on table variable. And after this, the last difference is based on the scope. For example, temporary table, the scope of a temporary table is the current session of the local temporary table. There are two types of temporary table, local and global. We are talking here about the local temporary table. For local temporary table, the scope is limited to the session, current session. So, and for table variable, the scope is limited to a particular batch. Let me show you. I have pasted here some examples. Let me show you in this in SSMS. For example, here for temporary tables, suppose we have created a temporary table, okay, and we have inserted certain records in the table, and I'm trying to retrieve the records from the temp table. So this is a complete batch. Like go statement signals the end of a batch. So like if I execute a particular batch, I can see that the two records in the table, and if I execute, like this is another batch, the next select statement after the first go, if I execute the statement, I will still see the data in the table. Okay, so it every time I select in the current session, it will show me the result. I can use a temp table within a current session irrespective of the batch. But in case of table variable, as it is limited, its scope is limited to the particular batch. Suppose after this go, if I try to execute this, like let me first execute this. So when I execute a first batch, I will see the data in the table variable. But when I execute the second batch, then it will give me this error, like must declare the table variable at the rate table var. So this means that a table variable scope is limited to a particular batch. Like after the first go, it will not give us a desired result. It will give us the error. Yeah, so these are the differences between table variable and temporary tables. Thanks for watching.